and get started since it's 9:31. So welcome to our morning meeting. As some of you may know, I'm Melissa Harris, and I'm one of the policy associates here at Groundwork Ohio. I'm going to give a quick budget update, and then I'm going to lead a family panel with 3 of our parents from the Family Action Network. So the legislators just came off of spring break, so there hasn't been too much going on, but there is some opportunity for public testimony in the next couple of weeks. Some agencies gave budget testimony in committees this past week. The Department of Children and Youth will give testimony on May 8th in the Senate Health Committee, starting at 9:30 a.m. If you're local, you feel free to come to the State House, or you can watch on the Ohio channel. Groundwork Ohio has been scheduling meetings with senators to talk to them about the budget. And then we are going to drop this information in the chat as well, but here are some key dates for public testimony. May 6th, Senate Health will have public testimony. May 13th and 14th will be Senate Health. And then May 14th will be Senate Government Oversight and Reform Committee. And then May 15th we'll have Medicaid again. The Senate Finance should have public testimony on the week of May 6th, 26th. And then amendments are due by May 16th. And then just one other note, the House Children and Human Services Committee met this week. They had 3 childcare bills that had their 3rd hearing, but they did not vote on those bills. Those bills were House Bill 2, House Bill 7, and House Bill 41. For a reminder of what those bills are, House Bill 2 is the childcare credit program that would be shared childcare costs between the state, employers, and employees. And House Bill 7 is categorical eligibility for foster and kinship families. And House Bill 41 is the childcare grants to expand childcare capacity. All right, so now we're going to transition to my favorite part of this, is the family panel. I'm not going to read their bios because I'm going to let them introduce themselves. And then I have a couple questions I'll ask them, and then I will share some information about the Family Action Network, our Senate Advocacy Alert, and the Women's Coalition sign-on letter. Okay, so I have Lupe, Shelley, and Sarah are the 3 parents that are here today. So you guys can start with introductions. Just tell us your name, where you're from, and a little bit about your family.
I'll go first. Morning, everybody. I'm Shelley. I am a Michigan native, born and raised, Ohio transplant as of about 2 years ago. I've been married to my husband, who is a Hoosier. We've been married for almost 11 years. So we are kind of making our way around the Midwest, him being from Indiana, me being from Michigan, and now we live in Ohio. We have 3 children. My oldest is 6, and she's in kindergarten this year. And then I also have twin 3-year-old daughters. They just turned 3 on Easter. So we have kind of entered that phase of just the challenges and the joys of having 3-year-olds in the house. We also have 2 dogs that we love them some of the time. And yeah, that's pretty much our family. We live in Mount Sterling, but I'm in Columbus most days of the week working. So,
all right, Lupe or Sarah.
Hi, my name's Guadalupe Bright, and I was raised in Columbus and came back after grad school because this is where my husband was. We have 2 boys, a 4-year-old and a 2-year-old, and a 3rd on the way. Yeah, I think that's it.
Hi, I'm Sara Laughlin. I'm from Troy, Ohio. I'm a single mom. I have 3 boys. I have a 9-year-old, and I have twin boys who are 4. I am self-employed, and yeah.
Thanks for sharing a little bit about yourselves. What is your why for getting involved in advocacy?
So I kind of stumbled upon Groundwork Ohio right now, and I'm an AmeriCorps Vista member with the Ohio Association of Food Banks, and I actually had a coworker that forwarded a Groundwork Ohio newsletter, I believe it was. She had forwarded it to me via email, like back in September, and it was a report that Groundwork Ohio had released on the infant and maternal mortality rates in Ohio. And I was absolutely floored because I had no idea that infant and maternal mortality rates were so awful in Ohio, especially for Black moms. And I couldn't shake it. Like I was just like, this is crazy. Like that this is happening right here in Ohio. And I mean, even in the United States is crazy to think about, but the fact that it's just happening like around us. So I started kind of quickly, joining more webinars that Groundwork Ohio was doing. I just was getting more involved and more curious and just wanted to learn more and find out like, why was this happening? Why was this such a problem? And then everything, kind of became more and more relevant as the governor's budget came out and just going through the whole process of these budget reconciliations and all the things that are changing in the political landscape around family support and childcare access and all the different pillars of policy and advocacy that Groundwork Ohio advocates for. And just knowing my own personal story of my struggles to find childcare and being a public health professional, it just came, it all aligned for me that it was a place of advocacy that I wanted to be. And it was something that was really important to me as a mom and as a public health professional. And so I've really appreciated having the opportunity to be on the Family Action Network because I think it's given me a place where I feel like my voice is heard. For the first time ever, I wrote a written testimony to the Ohio House that Melissa was super supportive and encouraging. I'm getting texts from Melissa like probably every week or every other week, and she's just very encouraging and supportive, and wants us to be involved. And she's a tide that kind of lifts our voices to the legislators, and I feel like with everything that's happening with the budget, like the timing just couldn't be better as an opportunity for me to express, as a mom, my own struggles and the need for family support, especially in Ohio, and the need for support for Black moms who are quite honestly risking their lives when they have the opportunity to deliver a child into the world, and so wanting to ensure that there is equal access to that healthcare, and that we can find ways to advocate to reduce those health disparities.
I have always been interested in policy to help children in general. That is why I, went to school for public affairs. It's something that's really a passion of mine. And it was magnified once I had my children and really realized how underserved many communities are and how there's a huge gap in understanding what individuals really need and what families really need and what legislation is putting out, and a huge gap in that understanding. And so I became very passionate in wanting to make sure that there was advocacy around that, especially both of my boys are autistic. They're level 3, so they have highest level of need and care. And so right now that is where I focus a lot of my effort on, because there is a big gap in general. There's a bigger gap when we talk about kids with special needs, whether it be autism, Down syndrome, whatever it is. And so making sure that voices are heard to help not only support the children, but also the families that have extra strain on them because of their circumstances. And so it's always been a passion of mine, and it has just intensified and magnified with both of my boys. Oh, and how did I come to Groundwork Ohio? Ooh, that was years ago. I heard about it through a mentor of mine. I'm blanking on her name, through a program called Moms to Be. She was like, you should you should go to this organization, because she knew I was working on my PhD in education policy and leadership. And she's like, oh, this is something you'd really like and enjoy. And so that's how I joined Groundwork Ohio. I think it's been about 3 years. I could be wrong, maybe more, definitely more than 2. And so I have been here, and now I love working with Melissa as well.
I'm relatively new at advocacy. I kind of joined policy council when my oldest son was in Head Start, and he was just average, normal, whatever. So I sat in the back, and I was too afraid to talk to anybody or say anything for fear that I would be wrong. And then as I listened to things and found out that, there are people that do want to hear our opinions, I started voicing more locally. And last year, I decided to make the jump and do the OPAN program. So I went to DC. I did all the things with the OPAN organization, which was amazing, which is how I met Melissa. And I had done a Strolling Thunder thing for Groundwork like 3 years ago. And it was just kind of like a, hey, show up, eat with us, tell us your story. They trained us and did a little bit of like your elevator speech, whatnot. But I didn't really do anything with it because I got the emails, but I don't know what to do with them. So once I met Melissa in person again, I was like, hey, how can I continue? How can I get deeper? And now she sends me text messages, and I'm like, why not? Let's do it.
I like how you guys are really hyping me up about encouraging you guys to tell your stories. And you are like the 3 people that I text quite often. I just know you guys want to do a lot of things. So, all the opportunities. Okay, so you kind of answered my second question. Shelley led into it, and you guys kind of answered it too. But I know there are families that want to get involved but not sure where to begin. What advice would you give to a parent who wants to get involved but doesn't know where to start?
Ask.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good question. I would say like maybe the first step is like really find out what you're passionate about and what you truly want to advocate for. I think that's a great place to start is like figure out, where your passions lie and where you see that gap in support and in policy that supports families. I mentioned the childcare thing is, I think that's a huge thing. And if that's something that resonates with you as a parent, then that's a really great place to start, and reaching out to Melissa and, like what policies are there already? What policies is Groundwork Ohio advocating for? And I think the Family Action Network is really supportive. I've only been able to attend a few of the monthly meetings. But like as somebody who's like joining a meeting in doesn't really have prior experience, like I joined and the people in the virtual room were very supportive and like wanted to get to know me, and I think it just like expedited that process for me of like wanting to advocate and wanting to be involved. So that's what I would say. Sorry, Sarah, if I cut you off.
Oh, you're fine. I was just going to say, just ask anybody who's any place in advocacy. If you ask them, they will lead you in any direction that you can imagine.
I echo what both ladies, Shelley and Sarah, have said. Just ask and don't be afraid to tell your story. I think sometimes, I know myself, we're kind of like, oh, does anyone really want to hear my story? Does my story really matter? It's not really that unique. It doesn't matter whether it's unique. It doesn't matter. What matters is that you tell your story and that you're willing to put yourself out there. So I think another really important aspect, aside from asking and really finding your passion, is being willing to put yourself out there and being okay with your story. Like just find peace and joy in your story.
Thank you guys for sharing your story and expertise. I'm happy to spend time building a relationship with each of you and see all of you shine and grow on the Family Action Network. Does anybody have any questions for anybody that's on the panel? All right, well, since there's none, thank you guys again. I'm just gonna put a little plug in here if you to invite families you know, or if you have children that are birth to 5 to join the Family Action Network. Not only will they learn about policy and advocacy, like the ladies here said, but it's also a place to build community with other parents around Ohio. In the chat is a link to the Family Action newsletter. And there will also be our Senate advocacy alert will be dropped in the chat as well as a way to reach out to your senator. And then one more thing in the chat, don't forget to sign our Women's Coalition letter, which the link has been dropped in the chat too, as a part of our ongoing efforts to advocate for policies that support women and families in Ohio. So if there's no questions about anything,
I do have a question, Melissa,
go ahead, Sarah.
for any of these ladies. Like, what was the intimidation factor like for you? Like talking about your family, talking about obvious like barriers and hardships, and you're going to interact with, or like the idea of sitting down with a legislator. Like, can you talk just a little bit about whether that was intimidating for you, how you moved past that, a little bit about that experience, if you have it?
I'll start if that's okay. My story is very deep. I went through a lot of issues family-wise. Like, my father of my children is very mentally abusive, and I had a lot of postpartum, and that's not a whole lot of things that I want to share with a legislator, because who wants to hear about my downfalls? But going to DC and talking about it, and literally the whole process to get to DC and talking about it and telling other people my story really just helped me get over it. And I'm not the only one that's been through it. I'm not the last one to go through it, and it'll help someone in the long run. So it really makes you dig deep, and you grow through how you go through the process, and just putting it out there just helps that much more. So the more you tell it, the more people really do want to listen. Like, I didn't get to see any of like the actual legislators. I spoke with like their office people, and they were just really into my story, and they were really thankful that I was there, and they did not have any mean looks or anything when I was telling them. So as I met with 4 when I was in DC, so it was, by the 4th one, I was like, we're best friends. You can hear my entire story.
Sarah, I was with you in one of those visits in DC. And can you tell the hockey story? Because I think it's like just making those connections that are so meaningful.
Yeah. So we were in Mike Carey's office, and I had already told my story, and I was just kind of sitting there looking around, because there's tons of things in their office that's really cool. And I noticed a hockey stick in the corner, and one of my boys is named after Herb Brooks, and this hockey stick was signed by him. So I told the guy that we were speaking with, his name was Jake, I was like, just a side note, like, my boys are named after hockey players, and one of them is named Brooks after Herb Brooks, because that is. And we got talking about how Mike Carey's a big hockey guy, and this guy had played with Mike Carey's son in hockey. So it was just a really cool connection. They're normal people like us. They just have a different title.
I guess for me, I'm a talker. Would I say I was like when I was younger? Yes, maybe in undergrad. Now that I'm older and I've had a lot of training, not just with OPAN, but other organizations, my biggest struggle to date is what do I say? Because I could go on for hours, and that's not the thing. It's like what snippet of the story, kind of like Sarah shared, is going to make that connection so that the legislator, the aide, whoever it is we're speaking with, can remember that. Because once you're able to make that connection, then they will remember your conversation a lot more easily than if you're not. So kind of like Sarah said, like looking around, what's in the room, how can we make the connection? And be like, hey, I'm a human, and I care about things that you also care about, and I'm interested in things that you're also interested in.
Yes. So funny story, I actually emailed Jake with this whole funding thing that's happening right now. And I was like, hey, I don't know if you remember me. And he was like, oh yeah, you have the hockey boys. Yes. So, I mean, we still had a conversation, and that we were there in January. So I must have made some sort of impression.
I don't have too much to add to what the other lady said, mostly because I don't have quite the experience that they have. I have not had the opportunity to meet face to face with any legislators, or I have not been to DC. There's a little bit of red tape around my current position as an AmeriCorps and advocacy things that I can be involved in. But I would echo a little bit what Lupe already said about just having that bravery to share your story and really embrace it and embrace the shortcomings and the highs and the lows. And also, I think I just look back and I want to be able to say that I advocated to the fullest, you know, for the health and wellness and happiness of my children, that I want my children to be able to look back on history and realize that there were women and moms and dads that were standing up and advocating on behalf of them and their well-being and their futures. And I think that's really important. You know, I think back with a lot of gratefulness on women who stood up and, you know, for years endured ridicule and a lot of difficulties just to allow women to vote, you know, and that's really not too far in our past. And so knowing that there's always progress to be made, I want to ensure that my kids can also look back fondly and realize like, oh yeah, like my mom you know, fought for us and wanted to make sure we were safe and we were taken care of and we were healthy. And so that's really a motivation that I think helps me get over the fear of being transparent and showing, you know, all sides of my family's story. And it's something you can be proud of at the end of the day to be able to overcome that fear and intimidation.
Thank you so much. I'm just like inspired by each of you. Thank you.
Is there any other questions from anybody?
I have a question. Hi, Melissa. How are you today?
Hi, I'm good. How are you?
Good. I'm Elisa Huss-Hage. I'm Director of Early Childhood from Hope Toledo. We have been working hard to try to engage families, and I'm wondering if you three amazing moms could help me understand what are some strategies that we might use to connect to moms like you and dads also who could be more involved in advocacy. We've kind of struggled to find amazing moms and dads and families who are willing to share their stories that we know are so important, especially now. You know, legislators don't want to hear from the nonprofits, right? They want to hear from the families and the values that, you know, the improvements, while this is impacting all of you. So I'm just wondering if you have any ideas that you might be able to share that might help others.
I would say be flexible. Like don't say, oh, you need to show up to this meeting or at this time. Like give options of you can send me a text with your story. You can email it to me. This is what you do. Being helpful, saying you can record a video, just the flexibility for working parents and working moms, especially because there's a lot on our plates right now. And if you're thinking of a single parent trying to juggle work and the kids, maybe school, who knows what else, that flexibility is like really important.
And sometimes it's easier to email your story than it is to actually sit in front of somebody and tell it. So if you just give them an option to have somebody else tell their story for them, sometimes that might get them in there.
And
Thank you.
I wanted to add, build the relationships. Like
Yes.
building those relationships is so important. It's what's going to bring and help bring up the confidence of those who maybe aren't so confident, who maybe don't know where to start or if they want to share their story. But once you build the relationship, everything starts with a relationship. So building a positive relationship can lead to that.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you so much. I admire you and appreciate what you're doing.
I will say one of the things that's worked a lot with the Family Action Network, I have the monthly calls, but I'm also texting them, I'm emailing them. I know who would rather get a text than an email. So I think like just knowing like what that parent really needs and like how you can connect with them is really important. These three know that I send a lot of messages because there's a lot of different things, especially with a budget. There's a lot more things happening quickly. And the one way that I've been able to get parents to do like testimony is that I ask them to like do like a paragraph of a story, and then I turn that into a testimony for them. And that way they're not doing all the work. I'm going to submit it for them. So it gives them a little more time to do whatever they need. And they're still sharing their story. They're just not putting all the work into like submitting it and doing all the things that is easily done in a couple seconds by somebody who knows how to, work the website. So I think doing those things too can be really helpful. Is there any other questions? Okay. Yeah, Deborah, I see your question in the chat. Yeah, you can. You can email it to me.
I don't have a question, but I just wanted to thank you for hosting, Melissa. This was such a rich conversation. And I also want to plug for those who haven't been closely following the chat that Julie put in a Head Start action alert that everybody should fill out. It's really quick and simple. And we've got a sign-on letter that we're doing through Groundwork's advocacy work at the State House as well, called the Women's Sign-On Letter, which you do not have to be a woman to sign on to, but showing that perspective of how women are uniquely impacted by the childcare crisis. So really plug both of those items and really appreciate you, Melissa, and your leadership with our amazing families.
Thank you. Well, I guess you guys can go enjoy your morning now.
Yeah,
Have a
excellent.
good day.
And also, Melissa, I do want to say now there has been an increase in single men that are raising kids. I don't know if everyone has seen that, but we are on our organization, All Star Academy, Whitehall Kids Academy, is connected to the dads group for the state of Ohio. And there has been an increase that I've seen. So I would like to also include fathers in that as well. That would be great.
We would love to have some dads in the Family Action Network. We only have one dad. So like more dads is definitely needed to hear their voice and their story. It's just as important as any other parent or foster parent. So
Yeah, but they just need a lot of help, obviously, in writing this stuff. That's why I was said what I said. They just need a lot of help with that. Yeah, that'd be great.
I am definitely here to help them write their story.
Excellent. Thanks so much.
All right. Well, have a good morning, everyone.
Thank you. Bye.